What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Testament, published by Japanime Games in conjunction with a few other publishers, LionWing Publishing, Manifest Destiny, which is the publishing company of the designer, which is a Japanese indie designer, also known as Kuro. So that's two designers, so they're using a pseudonym. I do not know the name of both of them, but I'd love to give them the proper credit. And on that note, I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself.
So first of all, I would like to thank Japanime Game for the review copy. As always, much appreciative of you guys reaching out and thinking of us for the review copy. But we'd like to remind our fans that our opinions will remain our own.
Yes.
So on that note, it is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. I don't know ages, probably 14 and above, I would guess.
Yeah, this is a game that's based on MMORPGs, so there's lots of mechanics, lots of customization. I would say you could go younger if you have a child that's playing an MMORPG, because it's really not necessarily the theme, it's just what is going on. And I don't know too many MMOs that are for younger kids or parents that want to let their kids interact online, but that's entirely up to you. You could definitely play with younger players if so choose.
And it's a game that should play in about 60 to 90 minutes.
Yes, it can go longer if things just aren't going your way, though, as we have experienced. So we're on stage 3 of 5. This is a campaign game where you level up. It's actually really easy to jump in and jump out of the game, something that is pretty cool. And let's tell you what you're going to be doing. So I already mentioned that this is based on MMORPGs. You're going to be picking a character. There are 4 main characters with the game and 2 special characters that you can choose as well. You can customize your characters however which way you choose. However, as you'll see, some of them have higher life. This is Holland at rank 5. The maximum rank for the character, he has 32 life. I also have the healer Kukuritu, who can also have really high life. So you may want to make Kukuritu a tank. Maybe Holland's going to be your tank. It's completely up to you. So tank, healer, damage dealer, range damage dealer, mage. What you're going to be doing is going through the stage, and you're going to be progressing down this track here, spawning enemies, and then finally engaging with the boss. The boss will have 4 cards that are placed here that will tell you what actions they take. For each phase of the boss, you've got 8 turns to defeat them. You have to defeat him 3 times, going through the full amount of health. You do that, you win, and you progress to the next stage. You beat stage 5, you will then defeat the game. Did I leave anything else at all, Julie?
I think we're good.
I think we got it all then. So on that note, we are going to grab our drink, grab our best friend and fellow adventurer.
Okay, take it to the table one more time.
One more time. Let's beat this adamant colossus. Now we're going to teach you how to set up Testament as well as go through the components. Now I'm doing this all at once because there's not a ton of components, so it just flows very well with the setup. So as you can see, you've got the stage board that you're going to be using. Now this is a dual-sided board for stages 0 and stages 1. We do have 2 other boards that have the other stages, so stage 2 and stage 3. Then you also have the board for stages 4 and then the final stage 5. So that's what you get for the game. You're going to want to put your placement tracker here, and I do really like this component. You've got your soul energy tracker here, which starts at the first space, the 0 space. Then you're going to have these 2 trackers, one to keep track of the life of the boss, another to keep track of the different rounds. You'll see here there are 8 different rounds and 3 different phases, so you essentially have a total of a maximum of 24 rounds to defeat the boss. The other thing I'm going to show you is how to set up the player characters. We're going to take a look at that actually in the rule book, because we're going to use the recommended starting setup. Now the reason for that is I just don't have too much room. So as you can see here, there's a section for pre-made heroes. It tells you how to start with Holland, Paulset, Kukuritu, and Shay Ruman. Now each character has their own special ability, which we'll take a look at in just a moment, but I want to show you how to set up a character. For the course of teaching you how to play, we're not going to need to have this boss space being used. So I'm going to just set up Holland because he's set up as the leader. So you're going to have him available out there like that. And you're going to also want to make sure you use the proper rank. There's actually multiple ranks. This is the rank 5 Holland that I put out. Not what I'm actually going to be starting with, but it's perfect because I'll show you how to calculate the correct rank. So what you do is you're going to set up the 4 cards that they'll be using underneath them. Now, during the boss fight phase, we're going to need this space, so I will remove Holland, but I'm going to keep him here just so that you've got a good point of reference, and we'll be showcasing the cards that we do use. So each card up here, as you can see, has a different ranking. So you have a ranking of 1, 3, and 1, and then -2. So that gives us a total value of 5 -2 for a 3 value, meaning that Holland's not going to start at rank 5. You can see the card value has to be 4 or higher. So we're not going to start out with the rank 5 Holland. We're going to go down a level to a lower rank. And as you can see, all the characters have multiple rank cards. So we'll go just through Holland's. So we're going to start with a rank 4 Holland, which falls within that 2 to 3 range. Now, as we're going to be taking a look at the other characters in more detail, you do have 2 other characters that you have. So you got Reardane Cargino, or Cargino. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. That's a really weird name even for Japanese. So you can see what his special ability is. Remove all black, red, and blue threat tokens. He starts the game with an item all the way up to rank 5. Then we've got Lunana Shoshone. And she lets you move all your enemy damage to any one enemy. And then you can see the stats for every character. 5 aggro max, the max amount of shields, and the maximum amount of buff tokens. Now, what we're going to do here, I'm just going to grab them and we'll take a look at them. I think it's probably the best to do. I'm not going to really focus on the rank here, but we've got Shay Ruman here. So Shay's ability, she gets +1 level up, meaning when you start the game, as you can see here, you'll have a level 2 card, which is the taunt. I've got the wrong card here. I'm actually going to swap this out for the correct one. I had 2 level 2s, which is not the case with Holland. He should actually have the level 1 Cool Hunt, but Shay will start out with 2 level 2 cards. We've got Paulette, whose special ability is +1 in power, so she gets an extra in power. That's the abilities down here. So for example, Fortress, it says ×1. Can you use this empower ability once, whereas with Taunt, you can use 2 different empower abilities. Her soul is to deal 4 damage to all mobs, not the boss. And this one actually removes all shield tokens for Shay. I forgot to mention it. Kukuritu's, he lets you heal 15 damage to all heroes. But actually, sorry, I'm going to pronounce it right. Kukurito. Just had to do that. And then Holland's is add 3 shields to all heroes, including Holland. We'll talk about how all of those different things work in a moment. Now I'm just going to go over what the counters are here. So we have the purple aggro counters, and they're an eye just to say, hey, everyone's looking at you. We have the damage tokens, which come in values of 1, 10, and 4. We have the buff and debuff tokens. Red for the buff side, signaling up or down, as you can see. On the blue side for when you're debuffing different enemies, and that's weakening their abilities. We have this nice cool metal first player token, which we'll give to Holland. And we talked about the threat symbols. You can see them actually on the board. So we've got the red, black, and blue threat, which will cause these effects to go off, and you just follow the rules for them, and they will go off for each amount of threat that you have. So if you got 3 of the same, you'll have to resolve this 3 times. If you've got all 3 different ones, there'll be 3 different ones that will resolve. We've got the custom dice that have the force that you're going to be generating to use your empowers. We have these 2 force tokens, which definitely are not my favorite because we only have 2 of them. We showed you a little bit the cards, but there's a nice stack of them that I have right here just to showcase all the different ones. So different color cards. So as you can see, you've got your gray ones. See the gray back for magic. Blue, they are more defensive cards. Green are your like range attacks, movement, but also just kind of like a wide variety of different abilities, buff, debuffs, movement, even damage. You've got your yellow, which is purely going to be a lot of your buff cards. You can do some damage based on your buffs, which is pretty neat. White represents all of the healings, even group heals. And then red is all of your damage dealing cards. We're not going to get into every single component. I want to make sure that you see everything. Then we do have the boss cards here. So some for specific levels. There are some standard ones as well that we'll showcase in just a moment. This one actually ran away here, the level 3 cards. And that's right, because I actually had some cards that I replaced. I wasn't sure, but those cards are no good. They've been swapped out. You can even see just the logo for the boss there. We're going to set up the boss deck in just a moment. Here we've got the item cards. This explains the timing when you can use the items. And these are used in EX mode, so as you're going through and completing stages, you're going to gain these items and equip them to your heroes, so you gain some more abilities. Here we've got the monster deck. So blue monsters are just your standard regular monsters here. Nothing special about them. Well, they do have some nasty abilities. And red monsters are the more difficult ones, which you're not going to see this game. These ones will only come into play once you get to stages 4 and 5. Now, some summon monsters may come into play before that, and these are the ones here that have the stage level in the corner. So you do remove these and you set them apart from the regular deck. So we've just about gone through all the components. I'm going to set up the other heroes like Shay and Paulette just afterwards. What we need to showcase now is how to actually build your boss deck, which is what I'm going to put in that spot over there. So you have the common cards 2, 4, 6, 8. And this represents the order and the timing. So we've got 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 5, and 1, 7. So depending on how the cards get shuffled and come out, you put this in the first slot, this in the second slot. But if there's no 4 or 5, you might end up with, you might end up with 5, and 8. I was going to say, I said 4 or 5. I should have said if there was no 4, 6, you may end up with, 1, 5 could be 6 at the end here. Just depends. So these cards are going to be used to create the boss deck. You shuffle them up. You're going to set them next to the board, and you're going to face them 3 times. It's going to be the first 4 twice, and the second 4 only once during the second phase. Don't worry, we'll explain all that when we get to the boss section, but we're good to go. We've got what we need right now. We've got the mobs. We have our deck for the boss. We have our components that are off to the side here. Our players are set up, so everything's ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the components. Now we're going to teach you how to play the game. Now we're going to teach you how to play Testament. So in this case, we're going to start with Holland as the first player. You have 3 dice, but you will only be rolling 2 dice. And to get the game started, what we're going to need to do is move to the first spot into the dungeon. We then will spawn the number of mobs related to the space, which is 3. So we're going to spawn 3 different mobs, and we get some rather challenging ones here, but actually we may be in some good shape. So we have 2 pit snakes, which can be rather annoying. They're stealth, which means that we cannot deal damage to them. We've got the gargoyle, which can potentially summon another mob, and that's the kind of stuff that we really want to avoid. But first things first, we got to roll the dice and see what we get. In this case, we get 2 4s, which we're able to hand out to other players or keep for ourselves. So as this case, Holland is the leader, he's going to give the stuff to our other characters. So what we're going to really want to do here, actually, see, we can actually ignore stealth, which is pretty cool. So we can actually potentially clear the board and actually get to this key space, which is pretty baller, actually. And I really am going to try to do that. To do this, we're going to give 1 star to Holland and 1 star over here to Kukurito. I'm bad at pronouncing that right now for some reason. So I'm just placing on my characters. And what we're going to use here is we're going to use the cool hunt ability. Now we're going to use this to ignore stealth. So this lets us move 1 forward in the dungeon. Now when we move 1 forward in the dungeon, we don't have to spawn any mobs. We're just at this new location. And as we've got Holland, Kukuritu and Paulette that all have this, if we can move 2 more spaces to get to this space, we're going to be in very good shape with regards to going through the key phase, and it'll give me a little bit of time to show you some of the other abilities. So we're able to ignore stealth. So we're going to just hit this pit snake, and it gets defeated. Move it off camera, and then when you defeat something, you gain 1 soul. And now goes over to Kukuritu's turn, who's going to do the exact same thing. Get rid of this pit snake, which will move the gargoyle up. We gain a soul. Move up 1 more space. Now what we need to do is deal damage to this gargoyle, and there's a conflicting opinion here, so if you do play this game, please correct me down below in the comment section. I'm going to show you the ability we're going to use now, which would be the Grand Saver ability. And reading the rulebook, it says that you will trigger this effect of the skill plus deal the damage there. So in this case, what's going to happen, we're going to trigger this. So as long as this is on cooldown, it gives us this effect. All melee skills get an extra +2 damage. We're going to deal 2 damage just from the melee skill. So the way Julie and I have read this is this will count as 4. We do generate 2 aggro, meaning that the monsters will be going after Shay. So we would take these 2, and I'm just going to put them on her to keep track. Apologies for the quick fade. That's what happens when you're not using an OEM battery in your cannon. It said it was full. Apparently it wasn't, so we had that quick fade out there. So as you saw, just to recap, just in case, we took the 2 aggro, put it on Shay. We triggered the Grand Saver, resolving its damage effect, aggro effect, as well as the effect that happens when the skill is on cooldown to deal 4 damage to the gargoyle. And then this gives us the perfect opportunity for Paulette to trigger her Cool Hunt as this character stealth. We just get to do the effect. Now, I didn't go through this originally, so it's a good thing that I'll do it now. So you can see Cool Hunt lets you deal 1 damage to 1 mob and move 1 threat from any hero to another, and you get to explore 1 in the dungeon. That means we get to finish off the gargoyle, completing it, and moving 1 more forward into the dungeon. So now we've progressed rather far. We don't have to spawn anything, as I already mentioned. And it's going to come to the next phase where we get to go into the key phase. Now what this means is that through our adventures in the dungeon, we have now investigated the boss. We put a damage marker here, which means the start of every boss phase. So the first, second, and third, they're going to take 2 damage, and that's a nice little advantage for us. Now, during this phase, we also get to take a turn, and we're going to be rolling dice. In this case, it has now gone over to Kukuritu, who will be rolling the dice. And in this case, we got a great roll of 4 force, and this symbol means that we get to roll again. So we're going to roll again. So we get a total of 8 force, so we can just boost to a whole lot of stuff right now. And as no one's taken any damage, I am going to use Kukuritu's Mysterian, which I can boost twice and give them 2. So this is going to give us buffs and also shields, which is going to be fantastic. We're going to give, let's see, we've got another, we've got a total of 8. So we're going to give everyone 2. I think that's just the best way to do it. So triggering Mysterian, that gives us these buffs. They could have been used to debuff enemies. As we've taken a look at enemies, I'll just show you what would happen. If you are debuffing them, you basically cover this first ability as such, and it will not trigger, and it will not go away until they are healed by some type of effect. So we're going to use the ability, and we use the Empower here for Mysterian, which lets us increase what we're doing by another 2. So we're able to give out 3 buffs here. And as you notice, once you use the ability, you put it on cooldown. Once you've triggered all of your abilities, you will automatically refresh them. So we're going to give out the buffs. So in this case, we're going to give one to Holland. He also gets a shield token. Actually, since he's the tank, we'll give 2 to Holland because that's what I want to do. I want him to have 2 shields. And we can just remove this for right now. We'll give the other one, the third one, to Shay over here, and she'll also get a shield. Now, for Shay's ability, so we gave her 2. She's going to use Fortress, which lets her remove 1 aggro from any hero. She'll remove that from herself, and she's going to give herself 1 shield, and then the second shield bringing up to a total of 3. For Paulette, she's going to use Initiate to generate a whole bunch of these. Actually, notice with the Empower, she can only do that once. So we're going to end up with an actual wasted force here, unfortunately. Oh, wait, no, she's got the extra +1 in power. So that's perfect. So let's bring it over here. So she got +1 in power. She's got 2. So she can do this an extra time. So she's going to generate 3 buffs. And she's going to give 2 to herself and 1 to Kukuritu. So I'm just going to be showing you the 3 buffs. We'll drop them on the characters so I don't forget. And then lastly we come to Holland. He also has the 2 force. Now I'm doing this by memory. The game really doesn't give you enough tokens to track it. We're going to use the same thing here. We're going to exhaust this to generate 2 shields. And then we're going to resolve the enemy phase of the next part. And then we're going to talk about how the boss fight and the boss phase worked. I'll take a break. We'll cut when we get to that. But we're doing well. Lots of good stuff. So we're going to be now going over to Shay's turn. But we move to this new space in the dungeon, which is the ambush space. So we draw 2 enemies. And they will activate immediately. So the unfortunate thing is, we've gotten rid of all the aggro. So the target is now going to be Paulette. At this point, we don't have any taunt. So what's going to happen, we're going to go through what the Acid Ooze does. It would break 2 shields, which is unfortunate, but we didn't give her any. And then deal 3 damage to Paulette. Next, you've got the skeletons that deal 2 damage to Paulette. And then they would deal 1 damage to... they would heal everyone. Now, as the enemies are already activated, we just slide them off the board to trigger that they're already activated. But as you can see, Paulette has taken a whack load of damage, but we're still in pretty good shape. We should be able to take them out. We're going to want to get their attention. We're going to defeat them. So things that we can do, we've got Taunt, we've got Energy Bolt, and I haven't been moving this around because the other guys aren't on camera, but... we resolve Shay's turn, so it'll be Paulette's turn. I'm going to roll the dice, see what we get here for force. So we get 1 soul. We actually defeated 3, so we should be at 3, so 4. We got only one force, which we will actually give to Paulette because we want to take these guys out as much as possible. So we're going to use Energy Bolt for Holland. Now he can suffer 2 damage. And increase it to 2 damage, which we're going to do. Now, I want to talk about the shields right now, because this is going to be the best chance to do it. And we'll just imagine that, for example, instead of it suffering 2 damage, we have the Acid Ooze here. With 4 shields, Holland can use this to block up to 4 damage, exhausting 1 shield. If I have 3 shields, I can exhaust a shield and block up to 3 damage, 2, and then 1. So when I've got this here, it means I can really block a total of 4, 7, 10 damage actually in total, because the first one's 4, second one's 3, next one's 2, last one would be a single damage. So that would just be how those shields work. Very important. In any case, finishing off this round here, so we're going to deal 2 damage to Skeleton. We get to Kukuritu's turn. It's got 1 buff, so we don't want to generate any threat here. So that will do that to just generate no aggro. Trigger it to heal 4. We spend the buff as an empower, meaning Paulette will heal 4. Now we can then use just the Serpent Tail to straight up whack the Skeleton. And the reason for that is with Serpent Tail, you're only doing 2 damage, not generating aggro. We could empower to stun, but Grand Sabers in effect mean that this 2 is now 4 damage. So that just gets rid of the Skeleton, generating another soul. And then we're here, we've got 2 damage that needs to be done. And we can straight up just go ahead, spend both of our buffs, not take any damage. To get that extra damage using Cryokinesis, we will generate aggro though. We're not going to an ambush space to do that last damage, and then defeat the Acid Ooze. Pushing this up one more time. So there you have it. That's what's going to be happening in the game. We're at the point where each character is going to either, tap all their skills, reset them. Now you do have the opportunity to pass. So if, for example, 2 skills tap going into the boss phase, I want more skills, I could pass resetting the skills or get to lower any aggro that I have. Let's find aggro. Aggro lowers by 2. And when I decide to pass, I can then trigger this ability. So it's not like I can attack using a skill and then trigger my sole ability if we get to the end of this chart. Now, if, for example, the Pit Viper, Pit Snake here, has forcibly exhausted your cards, which is what this means. There's a nice guide in the rulebook. We're not going to go over every single symbol, but if you've been forcibly exhausted, all your cards are like this, not by choice, then the only thing you can do on your turn is refresh, and you're essentially going to be missing a phase. Now, if you're wondering what all the different symbols mean, we're going to just take a look at them quickly here. So you've got them for the heroes: defend, attack, heal, support, explore. We showed you what each of the symbols do. And then for the enemies on page 15, you've got the instructions. So attack, pierce, defense, heal, combo, summon, tactics, which lowers aggro, weaken, which gets rid of buffs and shield tokens, bind, which puts your skills on cooldowns, and then rage, which means you deal an extra amount of damage based on the rage. So those are the basics of the game. We're now going to take a quick look as to how the boss mechanics work. So we're going to be taking on off the board. We'll be going through a boss phase. We're going to pretend the heroes have acted and just really go through the boss's actions. Actually, you know what? We don't need to take a break. I thought that made more sense, but you know what? I can set this up incredibly quickly because we're really right there. So I'm just going to move Holland's stuff right off the board. We don't need it. We're here, we move to the boss space, so we always have to spawn 2 mobs. And then here we're just going to draw the 4 cards and then set them up in order. Probably have to get 1-1, 1-7 is probably going to be someplace at the end here. We got 1-3, and then we have 1-5. So we actually ended up with all the 1s, which is very odd. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take these 2, chuck them, because that doesn't typically happen. You'd usually get a mix of the level 1 cards and the other ones. So these are actually in order. I'm wondering if I just did a terrible job of shuffling them, but in any case, that's what you get. So during a boss phase, the minions will activate first, triggering all of their abilities. And let's also pretend that we did really well. On the start of the boss phase, we're on round 1, meaning this is the card that's going to trigger. If we get up to round 5, we're going to be triggering this card again. Boss will start off immediately at the boss phase taking 2 damage, so depending on how you want to do it, you can just leave health out, so they're down to 8 of their 10 health. Now the enemies will trigger. Then you're going to go through the boss card, going down 1 by 1. Now if you've not debuffed the boss, you're going to generate 2 shields. If this card has been debuffed, you will then trigger the effect that is below, and then will now gain the 2 shields. At this point, it's going to add 4 damage to the character with the most aggro. Now, if the ranks are it will always be the lower ranked character if aggro is ever tied, so you're just going to take whoever's got the lowest rank. There's no aggro. The bad news is it's going to go after your damage dealers like Paulette and Shay. So at this point, 4 damage plus a black threat. And then this will always target the leader. That's what this crown symbol means, no matter who they are. So you would then deal 2 damage and add 1 red threat to that target. After that, you're going to move to the next round, and play is going to continue until the boss has taken 10 damage. Now, once the boss takes 10 damage, you can still activate against these minions, but you won't have another boss phase because what's going to happen, you're going to jump ahead. You're then going to clear this up, set them aside because you will be using them again, but you will deal out the next 4 boss cards. Part of the sequence. Once you get to the 3rd one, these get discarded. And you're going to put back out the other ones in order. And then once you defeat them, Well, guess what? You've then completed the stage and you're ready to move on to the next. So, didn't need to take a break. We were able to cover everything in a nice chunk here. Hope you enjoyed our How to Play for Testament. Now, keep it right here as Julie and I will bring you our thoughts on the game. So, Julie, what did you think of Testament by Japanime Games? Well, Manifest Destiny, Japanime Games. There's lots of names on this box.
So let's start with the positives. It has some pretty cool production value components. I mean, you got a metal first player token.
Fantastic cards. Once again, with Japanime Games, there's very few cards of theirs that I feel that you really need to sleeve, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know if they can see the plastic glass prism that shows.
I'll pick it up. Just your location tracker. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean the board's good quality, and the tokens are. I mean they're just cardboard, but they're good quality tokens.
I will critique the little stars that track your force. Not enough of them. There should be at least 10 of these.
And the wood dice are pretty cool too.
Yeah, I do like the wood dice. They may fade. That's the only issue that I've seen with wooden dice, but they are really cool. I can't quite see them here. There we go.
So from a production value, it's pretty cool. Also, a couple, I mean, we played different characters, and they're not all created equal, which sometimes is lots of fun. Other times I find it's less fun. We each had a character that was stronger than the other one. I really liked playing Che. She's, she's the blaster. I don't know what else to call her.
She's a damage dealer. She's like the rogue. She's the one pumping out a ton of damage. But this game doesn't really focus on melee or range damage. So I
like how the cards basically can chain together. That's pretty cool, and she's pretty balanced. I mean, she's not as tanky as your character, but she could still take a punch and still stay standing, as opposed to Paulette, who went up to 10 health. It took her a while. It took a while to get her going. I felt that Che could do more even at the beginning without her updated cards. I didn't love playing Paulette.
I will say this, because you're talking about all characters not being created equal, and I think it's something that we need to I'm mentioning so we get back to it. I don't think all the cards and the skills are necessarily created equal, and that really created a gap that you felt with Paulette.
Yeah, she definitely wasn't as fun to play. I mean, the last game wasn't as bad, but I was playing basically one card over and over again.
Spamming the best skill. Video gamers know that well.
So, I mean, there should be a lot of reasons to like this game, but this is one of these games that, I enjoyed playing 1 or 2 games. We're multiple campaigns in, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's the IP. I don't know if this is an IP.
No, it's not an IP.
Okay, so
IP.
the art is very anime, and if you've been following the channel, Jason loves anime. I could take it or leave it. Actually, I would leave it more often than take it. But I'll play it because Jason likes playing it,
and sometimes you enjoy it. Like Core Connection was a game that we were playing that you were like, I don't think I'm gonna like this, and it's competitive, and you came away saying, it's not my favorite game, but this was more fun than I thought I'd have.
And it's not really the style. I mean, it is a cooperative. That's great. And there is some blasting of minions and bosses. It didn't do much for me, I would say, unfortunately, because I think you really liked it. And I'll let you speak to that. But I was like, take it or leave it. It could stay in the collection or it could leave. I had a fun couple of games, but not itching to play it again.
Well, I think the reason for that, why you didn't enjoy it as much, is character customization and optimization is a big part of the game. Picking the right skills that are going to chain together, figuring out some weird combos of skills, and also playing a role or even playing like slightly modified roles. So if you played a game like World of Warcraft, Star Wars The Old Republic, you built your skill trees, you've done different things where you've kind of gone in a specific direction but modified it and tweaked it so that maybe you're a great healer but you've got one good damage attack. Like that's the aspect of the game. This is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game put onto the table. So this is an MMORPG. You've got the classic roles of tank, healer, damage dealer, your range damage dealer, your glass cannon, your mage, and there's different ways to customize how everything works. And I get your frustration with Paulette. I mean, I went and I finally tweaked some of her skills because that second game you were, in our What You've Been Playing Wednesdays, you were talking about just how some of the games dragged on. The game that really dragged on was because Paulette wasn't dealing enough damage. And it just wasn't working. And it was weird because Hailstorm felt like it should be the right card, dealing 2 damage to everything. But I kind of realized afterwards was that without another character with Hailstorm, it really wasn't working. We weren't cleaning up the board and things weren't chaining together the way that they really should be. And that can definitely be frustrating and made the game drag on. Like we're at stage 3 and it's supposed to be a lot harder. And I found that we did a lot better in this one than we did in stage 2. Maybe it's because we struggled so much with the second stage of the game. So you really need to like character customization and optimization if you're going to be playing the game. And you should be a gamer. Like, I like World of Warcraft. I like Star Wars The Old Republic. I do not have the time to play those games. So getting something that takes those mechanics, put it on the tabletop that can be played in 60 to 90 minutes is fantastic. Maybe we wonder why I can't, play those games in 60 to 90 minutes. Anyone that's played a raid knows that they can take a lot longer. And I don't have the time to keep up with level cap and all the other daily crap that comes with playing those types of games anymore. So I like that aspect of the game. I think the game is a lot of fun. There are some things that I do find that are a little frustrating as well, like the way stealth works, the limited way that you can target some characters. Also, just how important getting these keys are. They get damage dealt to the boss to really kind of give you that little extra kick. I find to be really important, and it can be frustrating skipping along the board with these movements. I'm not so sure how I like the buff and the debuff aspect of the game, where you're able to give your characters essentially the same value of these force tokens that are represented by these that will let you empower your abilities to hit harder. That's one of the aspects I really love about the game. I thought it's really cool. But sometimes it feels like if you don't get that right roll, that right empower, you're going to be in a really tough spot. And if you like that aspect of challenge, which is very present in Japanese role-playing games, anyone that's played a lot of them, whether it's multiplayer or single player, you know that that's just the way things work. They like the grind. They like to make it hard just for the sake of being hard. And they love the fact that it's random. It can be something that you may or may not enjoy. So this game definitely isn't for everyone. I definitely think that this game is for me. I like it. I like to keep it in the collection. I want to finish it. But to Julie's point, I don't know how many times I'm going to play this game. I can't see this being a staple. I can't see this being something that will come out a lot. But what I do appreciate, because it takes up a lot of room, but what you're doing is really one card action per player. Very easy to play this game solo. Like playing it at 2 players with 4 characters, playing it solo. It works well across all player counts.
He tried to play my players too.
Well, actually, that was one of the things I was going to get into. I wasn't trying to play your players. But this game will definitely, I'm just going to put that back. I don't like where it is. Sorry. We'll have an alpha gamer problem. But anyone that's played an MMORPG will fully know that you're going to have an alpha gamer problem no matter what when you're playing an MMO. There's a raid leader. There's a raid group. Everyone's got their roles. People have to know their roles, do their roles. Someone screws up. Well, then someone's got to fix something and bring things back together. It's all about executing what can be a very dull plan, depending on the encounter, or an exciting plan to correctly beat the boss. Now, you don't have crazy mechanics like that in this game. You have some of them when it comes to the different cards. But yes, it does mean that sometimes you got to be like, well, if this is the time to do the AoE effect because we're going to beat the boss. So, yeah, this definitely is not for everyone. And I don't necessarily think this game is for us. I think it's a game that a gamer will like, but I think this really limits sort of its scope as to who's going to like it. But it is a good game. I will say that it accomplishes exactly what it wants to do and it executes it very well on the tabletop.
I think you're going to rate it first.
I'm going to give this game a 7 because I might give it a little bit of a lower rating, but the level of execution that it has, I think it does very well. The customization aspect of the game is incredible. It could definitely push itself up towards an 8, but it does have those random aspects that are just in Japanese game design, whether it's like, getting that random roll, getting that crit, getting that specific thing to go off, that has always driven me a little bit nuts. And I prefer my board games to be just a little bit more deterministic than they are. Getting 2 souls is really annoying on those force dice, and that knocks it down a full point for me.
So for a lot of the negatives that you just talked about, and for what I said earlier, I'm going to give this a 5.5. It's almost a pass. It's a pass in some school systems. It's not a pass in my school system. Almost. The main reason, and maybe I'm being a little bit hard on it, but we play a lot of games, and you have to come to think of it as, yes, I had some fun, which is why it's almost a pass. But when it comes down to it, it's not for me. It's not my type of game. It's not the type of game that I like to play. As Jason said, this is my rating for me and how I play. I don't really want to play this again. And maybe if it has to come out at a game night and that's what everybody else wants to play, I won't run away screaming. But I'm not going to be one to say, hey, pull this out. And there are a lot of other games that we've played recently where they weren't my favorite game, but I'd be willing to play them again. This one, yeah.
No, and I completely understand. You're having fun with one character. Maybe you would have had more fun if it was a full team of 4, but that being said, everything's got to work together well. Someone mistriggers something, the whole game can fall apart. The rulebook says that you got a 20% chance to win, and I think we've been doing better than that. But lots of experience playing MMORPGs and lots of experience playing games. Now, there are some things that aren't as clear in the rulebook, so maybe we're playing it a little bit more in our favor as well than the way that it's supposed to work. So keep that in mind. I think they've done a great job once again with MMORPGs on the tabletop. That being said, not everyone's an MMORPG player. I don't think I could ever get her to play World of Warcraft, nor would I ask her to.
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of Julie and I playing Testament, there'll be plenty on those feeds. Also down there is a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. Click that link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. It's a great way to support the channel, so if you're looking for a copy of Testament, make sure to check them out, because a portion of that purchase will be returned to us. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie, we'll take you back to something else by Japanime Games. What are you thinking, Julie? Something really popular? Core Connection? Cowboy Bebop?
You pick.
I think we'll go back to Cowboy Bebop Space Serenade, which Julie gave a really high rating to, and she still doesn't believe it to this day. I think we're going to have to revisit that one. Now we're going to grab our drink.
Oops, my cup is stuck.
It's a big cup. Grab our best friend. And
we're going to keep playing games.
Keep playing games. I'm probably going to finish this one off. 2 bosses left, but probably won't see this to getting back to the table after that anytime soon.